Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It is 7:07 on this 13th day of February, day before Valentine's Day, and just the end of another cold, snowy week. Well, not snowy, but there's a snow around week here in the nation's capital. But good news, we've got sunny skies ahead of us and warm temperatures. By next week, we could get up into the upper 60s. Yay. So keep hope alive. Coming up at 7:35, we're going to speak with Steve Milloy of Junk Science about the groundbreaking deregulation yesterday from the EPA. That's coming up. It's Larry O'Connor with Patrice Onwuka. Happy Valentine's Day to you.
Happy Valentine's Day and happy Friday, everybody. We made it.
Joining us right now is Mark Mix, president of National Right to Work Committee. Anytime we have Mark Mix on, we know that Democrats in some state nearby are doing something to mess up the free market when it comes to labor and giving more power to the unions. And, of course, it turns out it's the Virginia Democrats. Mark, thanks for joining us. It's like I feel like almost every day for the last 4 weeks we've been talking about the insanity coming out of this new Democrat majority in Virginia, where they're trying to make Virginia California without the palm trees. But what's the latest now from these legislators?
Yeah, Larry, this is a pretty serious issue. Your last segment, defendingeducation.org, I thought about that. And I thought about the power of the teachers union when it came to that. They're the kind of fundamental piece of that power that teacher unions have over our school systems. But right now, this bill to basically mandate union bargaining for all government employees in the Commonwealth of Virginia, which is, according to Scott Soroville, 500,000 employees.
Wow.
And another 100,000 or so home health care providers that would be unionized under this bill. The bill passed out of the Senate Finance Committee last night. It's passed out of the House Labor Committee already. It's on its way to the Appropriations Committee. This is a pretty serious matter, Larry. You mentioned the palm trees in California. That's probably the best case study we have for the failures of union monopoly bargaining over public sector workers. Illinois is another perfect example. New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New York. Do I need to go on farther for those states that are on the fiscal precipice because of the dramatic cost of government when it comes to union bargaining? In fact, Franklin Roosevelt, to your point, said it's unacceptable and unthinkable and intolerable that we would allow union officials to have this type of power. He was speaking specifically about the power to strike, which of course they say is illegal. But for example, in Massachusetts since 2019, where strikes are illegal for public employees, guess what? There's been 19 strikes. So This is a power grab, and it's something that Roosevelt thought. He said, you can't bargain with government. That's what this is all about. He was against it.
So, Mark, the practicalities of what's going on here. This is public sector unions, the union bosses, they are exerting more control, or is this an effort to try to unionize different groups of employees? You mentioned home health care aides, for example. So just explain here exactly what they're trying to accomplish with this bill.
Yeah, so what this bill would do is it mandate that localities, the 133 counties and cities, independent cities across the Commonwealth, would be negotiating over terms and conditions of employment with government employees. Under current law and under current operations, it's not illegal to unionize. Public employees can unionize and gather together voluntarily. This would say that they are going to have a position at the table that's between elected officials and us, the taxpayers that pay their salaries and support the money that they're going to spend. It's really an amazing piece of legislation. It's one that other states are trying to get away from and to reform and to repeal. But yet Virginia is heading headlong into this union power grab that gives them substantial power that even Franklin Roosevelt and George Meany, the former president of the AFL-CIO, thought was impossible to collectively bargain with government.
Well, and again, it's the kind of thing that, moderate Democrats like Tim Kaine and Mark Warner and even Terry McAuliffe would never actually dream to go this far. They may have dreamt it. They may have promised it in exchange for campaign donations, but they were never able to do this because for Virginia, this was always sort of a bridge too far. And Mark Mix, we're speaking with Mark Mix, National Right to Work Committee. Here's the important thing that people lose sight of. As we talk about giving more power to the union bosses here, especially when it comes to these government unions, then that means somebody's losing power. So in
That's
this
right.
case,
Yeah.
who's losing the power that these union bosses are getting?
Yeah, the taxpayers of Virginia. That's who's losing power. But hey, Larry and Patrice, this is all about affordability. Let's not lose sight of that.
Exactly. Yeah. I keep forgetting about that. Well, I mean, it is the taxpayers, you're right, but also, by the way, the employees. You know,
That's
if
right,
you're
yeah.
in one of these unions or they're forcing you into one of these unions and they're swinging the power, you know, you're supposed to have power if you're a union member. That's the whole idea. But now you're being disenfranchised by just basically tipping the scale for the bosses.
Yeah, indeed. And the good news about that, Larry, is there's some protection. We won a U.S. Supreme Court case back in 2018 called Janus v. AFSCME. I think we've talked about this before, that says that no government employee anywhere in America can be forced to pay dues to get or keep a job. But to your point, Larry, that doesn't mean that the union will now be the single sole voice in the government sector workplace. And if you disagree with what they're doing, or you disagree with what they're asking for, or you disagree for their political activity, you're still going to be represented by that union as, quote, your voice in the workplace. So, yeah, there is disenfranchisement there for sure. And, you know, we don't have to look that far to see the outrageous power that union officials are using. You talked about the educational structure already. That power is a derivative of exactly what the Democrats are trying to do here in the General Assembly to the Commonwealth of Virginia. You know, Doug Wilder in 1993 signed the bill prohibiting this bargaining, this official, quote, formal bargaining with unions over how government operates. But yet this bill, according to Scott Somerville, to his point, he says we're going to deliver over 700,000 Commonwealth employees to the Service Employees International Union. That's a mistake, and we've seen the results of this, again, in those states, that roll call of states that I listed.
Well, and the bottom line here is that the unions get more power, they get more money, they get more dues, they get more say over what's happening, in our state government in Virginia. Now, talk to us about these bills, HB 1263, and then the Senate version, SB 378. So, have they both passed out of committee, and are they going to be facing floor votes? And then, where do you think Spamberger would fall on with in terms of vetoing or approving these bills?
Yeah, so the House bill has already passed out of the House Labor Committee, as I mentioned. It's on its way to the Appropriations Committee right now. We're getting to a focal point in the House of Delegates. There's a crossover date for legislation to make it out of the Houses. The bill is passed through the Senate Finance Committee last night. The good news is they took out the home health care provision. They made that a study. And then they delayed the implementation of that for 2 years to look at it. So that was one victory. And I think the reasons why they're doing that, Patrice, is because taxpayers are starting to let their voices heard. And the seven mayors down in Newport News and Norfolk, they say they came out together. Democrats and Republicans joined together, bipartisan, said, we don't need this. We don't want it. A school board member, president from Prince William County, said this will bankrupt government. So there's some reality check coming to Democrats and Republicans alike as they consider this bill and the impact it will have.
You know, Mark Mix, we've only got a minute left here, but I feel like we're, engaged in some, hysterical fear-mongering here. I think we're going way overboard because Abigail Spamberger is going to have to sign these bills into law, and she's a moderate, Mark Mix. You just
Larry, sorry, I'll laugh, I'll chuckle, but no, there's nothing moderate about it. This is a power play, and she's going to
sign it, right?
Larry, not yet. I don't give up hope on things like this. We've been behind the eight ball before over here at Right to Work, and we've won some amazing battles. And we don't do it without the help of ordinary citizens being informed, and without your help getting the word out about this. So contact your legislators. That's the one action item for this morning's segment here, Larry.
Well, and CC Abigail Spamberger, that moderate. Make sure she recognizes what a moderate really is, because every single Democrat governor of Virginia before her would not have done this, unless they knew they could get away with it. All right, Mark, we got to leave it there. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Yep.
It is 7:15. Well, we have yet another update on our very favorite squatter, the woman who is an Instagram influencer with very expensive shoes and sunglasses and purses, who served, 11 days out of a 90-day sentence for squatting in a $2.3 million Bethesda mansion. She, of course, then after being released, went right back into the mansion. We shared with you yesterday the interview
Oh, my goodness.
Gary Collins of Sinclair had with her lawyer when he was sort
Yes.
of, he was stunned into silence, so much so that we had to add crickets so that you didn't think we went off the air. Here, take a listen, cut 6.
How would your client, Ms. Tamika Good, get inside a $2.3 million property?
Cut. I don't know if I can answer that. Allegedly.
Cut. Allegedly.
Can I cut?
We're
rolling.
We're rolling, my friend. Yeah.
He just sits there. He stares. He thinks. He considers. Still nothing.
Wow.
All right, can you re-ask the question?
Okay,
Absolutely.
ask me the question.
So the number one question on everybody's mind is how your client, Ms. Tamika Good, got into a $2.3 million property.
Great question.
Well, Ms. Good did her research. She found out that a certain property was under the control of a certain group, and that there was a title issue.
With all that time to think, he still couldn't quite come up with the answer. All right, well, so here's the latest update. There's another arrest now and another removal. Tamika Good and Corey Pollard. I didn't know there was a man involved here, too. He must be a lucky man.
She has a live-in boyfriend, I guess?
Yeah, they moved in last summer to this bank-owned house that was vacant. It became the center of this statewide debate about squatting, right? All right, so the latest is the Tuesday night after Sinclair reported on this latest and ran that incredible interview with her attorney. She's now been arrested during a court proceeding. Oh, no, excuse me. She had been arrested. Okay, just before the article hides all of the important information. Just before 9:30 p.m. on Tuesday, Good and associates were seen moving items out of the mansion, and multiple Montgomery County Sheriff's deputies arrived. She was taken back into custody. She was transported to the Montgomery County Detention Processing Center shortly before midnight. Unclear why she was arrested on Tuesday. Well, maybe it was because she went right back into the mansion that she was squatting in before.
Yeah.
When she was placed inside a police vehicle, cameras were there, and Ms. Good said, "Stop effing recording." So there's that.
She is a piece of work, Larry. Folks, remember, she makes a business out of this. She calls herself a, quote, pro se litigation coach, which is you represent yourself in litigation. Mm-hmm. And she sold bankruptcy preparation services and advised clients on how to stay in their homes while facing eviction. So she's advising other squatters, because this is not their own home with their name on the deed and the title or the lease. These are just squatters. And she's telling squatters how to defraud the government and defraud the banks. I mean, this woman, can you lock her away and throw away the key? Just do it, please.
The real story in all of this is she's done this habitually, and so far, despite being sentenced to 90 days, she's really only served like 10 or 11 days before being released again. I mean, let's see what happens here. But there are advocates in the state of Maryland who would argue that this should not be illegal. It's, after all, there are just unhoused people, and they should be able to barge in and live in any vacant home, especially if the bank owns it. Who cares if the bank owns it? What do they care? They're just sitting in that with that empty house. We should be able to go in there and run our prostitution rings or whatever we want to do.
Oh, my gosh. Well, frustratingly, the Maryland legislature actually had legislation introduced by Democrats, and the bill died. It would have actually increased some of the penalties for squatters and made it easier to remove those individuals. I remember because I had submitted some testimony in support of it. I mean, it's a no-brainer that you should not be able to squat on somebody else's private property, and that somebody else is not just, as her lawyer said, a group. It could be the bank, or it could be like you and me who go away on vacation, and then somebody has decided to move themselves into our house, and we can't live there. So Maryland, get off your duffs, and please, legislature, tackle this and actually increase penalties for the squatters like this woman, ensure that they can't do this anymore.
It is 7:23.
Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:37. Good morning. 13th day of February. Yes, that's right. You've got one day or else you are screwed. Come on, take care of Valentine's Day.
Please do. Please do.
It's Larry O'Connor alongside Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Good morning. Happy Friday the 13th.
It's an unlucky day. How can it be a happy one? Well, I guess if you like that sort of thing. Steve Milloy, Senior Legal Fellow at the Energy and Environment Legal Institute, former Trump EPA transition team member, and also the proprietor of the Junk Science handle on X, which is always incredibly informative. Steve, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Larry. Good morning, Patrice. It's great to be here.
I feel like we're just starting to grasp how big yesterday's announcement was in terms of unleashing our economy and manufacturing and industry and just bringing sanity back to the regulation state that the EPA basically became on steroids after the Obama administration deemed carbon dioxide as a pollutant. First of all, walk me through what a big deal this is and what the ripple effect's going to be.
Well, it's huge. In 2009, the Obama EPA determined that carbon dioxide emissions harmed public health and welfare, and decided to regulate it, and that launched their whole climate regime and really underlies all climate activity in the federal government. And this has been used. I worked in the coal industry for a number of years. It's destroyed half the coal industry. It has sent energy prices through the roof. During the Biden administration, sent gasoline prices through the roof. And so the Trump administration has rolled back the part of the endangerment finding that deals with vehicles. They still have to do it for stationary sources like power plants, but they got rid of the endangerment finding for vehicles. So vehicles are no longer subject to climate regulation in the U.S. Of course, this will save consumers, untold trillions of dollars over the next decades from lower gas prices, lower car prices, which is very important. The reason cars are so expensive is because of climate regulations and the fuel economy standard.
Well, and talk to us about the impact on the electric vehicle industry, right? Both Larry and I drive electric vehicles, and we like them, we love them. But we've already seen.
We
the
don't
consumers
do it to save the environment. We do
no,
it
not at all. It's
cars.
because they're super cool, and they've got
clear.
great technology in them. But I mean, we've already seen consumers reject the Biden era push, and I guess the Obama era push towards electric vehicles. What is this going to have? What kind of impact is this going to have on the electric vehicle industry going forward?
Well, the biggest problem for the electric vehicle industry was the electric vehicles themselves. I mean, Ford, GM, Stellantis, they lost tens of billions of dollars. Ford lost $19 billion last year, Stellantis $28 billion in a single year, because they've just been a disaster, and they were all made possible because of the war on gasoline that the Obama and Biden administration launched. So, actually, without the endangerment finding, electric vehicles probably would have been limited to Tesla, because Tesla was the only one doing EVs, before the endangerment finding. And then the Biden administration came in, made the car makers do EVs. California tried to have an EV mandate. All that is gone.
Yeah. Can you also, a quick history lesson here, because, if you look at the media, you'd think that this was something that, this is something that has been in place, protecting our environment and protecting people's health for decades and decades. And Trump is, so first of all, again, as you said, 2009 ain't that long ago. It was under Barack Obama in his first year as president. But secondly, more importantly, the way they didn't they try to get legislation and get it through Congress, and when they didn't have the votes, they just decided to unilaterally do it anyway?
Well, they were going to do this regardless if they got the legislation. And what you're talking about is the cap and trade legislation through the early Obama administration, which failed. There's been no climate regulation, and that's really the underpinning for getting rid of this. It wasn't the scientific rationale, because that's too complicated to explain to people, so they did it through the legal rationale. The legal rationale is that Congress has not authorized EPA to do this. And there's a 2022 Supreme Court decision, West Virginia versus EPA, that says, and rightly so, for major regulatory programs, there must be congressional authorization. There was none for this. And so that's why it's gone away. Now, if Congress wants to regulate climate, well, then Congress has to do it. But Congress failed before, probably never will get through Congress without, super majorities by Democrats.
Can I just real fast, because the people who are complaining about this call themselves environmentalists. So while they were screaming yesterday, and also pushing legislation in Richmond to keep you from using a gas-powered leaf blower, meanwhile, there are hundreds of gallons of raw sewage being dumped into the Potomac River as we speak with no end in sight. And I didn't hear any of the environmentalists who care about our environment say a damn thing about that.
Well, so Larry, that's a really great point. We do have real environmental problems in this country. A lot of them have to do with our infrastructure, and they have not been tended to because we have spent trillions of dollars putting up these ridiculous windmills, solar panels, EV subsidies, all this stuff, which has done nothing. The climate regulation has done nothing for the environment, has done nothing for public health. As a matter of fact, it's probably only ever hurt things because, emissions of carbon dioxide is plant food. And the planet is greener than ever before. That's great because we need the agriculture to feed 8 billion people. So we do have real environmental problems. We can talk about that some other time. Yeah. But this has been a huge distraction and huge waste of resources. And you're right. We've got sewage being dumped into the Potomac River. There's that same thing is happening from Mexico to Southern California. It's disgusting. We should have fixed this a long time ago.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Steve Milloy. He covers junk
Steve.
science like no one else. Thanks for joining us, sir. It is 7:43. Well, we already told you how the Maha effect has made a huge impact on people who are receiving federal SNAP benefits, food stamps, where state after state after state are now keeping you from being able to use those benefits for junk food and garbage that's actually going to make you unhealthier, fatter, and sicker. So that we're going to have to take care of you at that end as well. If you're going to require or rely on the largesse of the American taxpayer to feed your family, at the very least, you can buy healthy foods that will keep your family fed with nutrition, right? All right, that's one thing. But now the Maha effect is also having an impact on the private sector, too. For instance, some restaurants, we already saw some restaurants jump on board very quickly and say, okay, we're not going to use any of these polyunsaturated fats and the canola oil, seed oils when we make our French fries. We're going to use beef tallow, things like that. Yes. We've been using beef tallow in our house, actually, and it really does make it. All right, so hear me out. Not that we do a lot of French fries in our house, but when we do, you get your basic, frozen French fries. Okay. I know there's not a whole lot of preservatives actually in frozen French fries.
So, yeah.
They put something in there to keep them from like sticking to each other in the freezer bag. But it's all right. So you get those. You pour melted beef tallow over them, toss them in the beef tallow, put them in your air fryer. Dude, 15 minutes later, those French fries taste like they're from a restaurant. Incredible. Sprinkle with salt.
Really?
Enjoy it with the steak. Get your steak treats going.
I just usually use my air fryer without the extra grease and fat on my French fries.
Beef tallow. No, just toss them in beef tallow. I'm telling you, you're gonna love it.
All right,
crisp
I
up
try
the
it.
outside.
Okay.
But now we're also seeing restaurants, including fast food restaurants. Listen, fast food is not the healthiest food, but there are steps. There are steps that certain restaurants can take to make it healthier. Certainly. And here's one of them. The Steak and Shake fast food chain is banning all microwaves from their restaurants.
Really?
So the food preparation will be much more natural and much more, and it means that you're not going to be dealing with a whole lot of frozen or pre-made processed foods that just get zapped.
So that's huge, but I'm thinking practically, how does this impact prices and employment? I'm going to suspect that you're going to have to hire more workers who are now going to be keeping the food warm, flipping the food rather than zapping it in the microwave and thawing it out or warming it up to room temperature quickly. So I'm going to guess you're going to have to hire more people for that, right? And that's more money?
I mean, I'm sure that they have made this calculation and figured out the delta of what the cost was going to be on this and decided that whatever that cost is, the promotion that they get. I mean, here we are in D.C. talking about how Steak and Shake is not going to use microwaves.
Steak and Shake.
That's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
But Chef Andrew Gruel, who is a great chef, and he sort of got a little red-pilled after COVID. He's based out of Huntington Beach, California, which is the one last conservative bastion of the Golden State. He did make a really good observation on this when asked about it, because he's sort of the go-to chef that right of center outlets are going to look for a quote from, right? So Fox Digital did just that and said, so Andrew Gruel, what do you think of this? And he said, why were they using microwaves in the first place? I mean, it's great. I guess they should get some sort of kudos for ending it. But honestly, why were they even doing microwaves in the first place if they were cooking?
So I asked Grok. And Grok told me that sometimes they're melting butter, melting chocolates or cheeses, sometimes things that need to be melted very quickly, and you don't want to create the extra pans or wash dishes for washing, preheating, pre-cooked food. So maybe what you prepared earlier in the day and kept in the fridge, now you got to bring it out and you heat it up.
And shake at a fast food joint?
Well, listen, I have seen them use microwaves at Dunkin' Donuts for the little eggs that we eat on our breakfast sandwiches.
That I believe.
So,
no, I've seen that too. The little sous vide
I think
bites.
it's a common practice.
Starbucks uses microwaves for everything. You're right.
I'm just thinking two outcomes of this: longer waits and a little bit more money. I just think that that's going to be the outcome, and maybe we're okay with that. I don't know.
This is a trend though across the board, though. I think for most restaurants, Americans right now are scrutinizing ingredients lists like never before. If
Absolutely.
you go when you're at the grocery store, you see more and more people looking at those labels. They want to know where their food is coming from, and they want to start eating cleaner whenever possible. And generally speaking, if you're doing a drive-through, that's not the cleanest eating, but sometimes you got to. Sometimes you have to when you're on the run, and you've got to do that. So microwaves can be a big part of getting food delivered to you in a faster way. And apparently Steak and Shake has decided not to do it. By the way, there was a review. I've always heard that microwaves, and the dangers of microwaves was sort of overstated. When microwaves first started to become super commercially available, which is probably mid-'80s, I want to say, or early 80s, there was, you're radiating my food. It's radiation. It's going to affect your brain. It turns out there actually is some truth to that. I always thought that was an urban legend or something.
Really?
But apparently there was a study at the National Library of Medicine just a couple of years ago that said microwaves can damage the brain, one of the two key components of the human CNS, particularly affecting the neurotransmitters, which play an important role in passing signals inside the body. Apparently, long exposure to microwaves can have a deteriorating effect on that. I always thought it was a myth. I always thought it.
Well, I can imagine probably it won't affect people who just have one in their house and regularly use it. It would affect the fast food workers who are zapping, food every 2 minutes. So
Steak and Shake, based out of Indianapolis, they are definitely trying to own the Maha fast food lane. They have switched to 100% beef tallow for the fries, no more seed oils at all in anything. They have switched to A2 high-protein whole milk for all of the milk usage in their restaurant.
That's right.
And now there will be no more microwaves. There you go. Eat your burgers wisely. It's 7:53.